Hello, everybody. It looks like our audio wasn't coming through, so too bad. Sorry you didn't hear the warm-up music, but glad to have everybody here. My name is Doug Davidoff. I am the founder and CEO here at Lift Enablement and a longtime user of CRM. I am curious. Let's get some chat going here. When did you use your first CRM? I think I got everybody beat. When did you use your first CRM, and what was the first CRM that you used? Let's see what we got here. I can tell you that companies spend about $20 billion a year on CRM. And depending upon what piece of research you look at, somewhere between 70 and 80% are dissatisfied with their overall CRM usage. We've also launched our first poll. Where do you expect the biggest impact from your CRM, or where can you get the biggest impact from your CRM? I see we've got one person. We got going back to 2010, Microsoft Dynamics, very interesting. 2014, Salesforce. Let's go ahead, give this another 20 seconds here. 2010, 2018. Alrighty, I got everybody beat. Anybody go back to DOS? My first CRM was 1992, Act for DOS. I used Salesforce in 2000. Over the course of my career, I've personally used about 15 different CRM, and I counted this for the webinar so I could share this. I've advised companies just under 30 CRM that I was able to recall and count for. So 28 different CRMs. So I've seen the good, the bad, the really bad, and the ugly. All right, Sammy, what is the results? Where do we get? What's the impact? Where do we get the biggest impact? All right, we see biggest impact, more accurate reporting and forecasting. By the way, in your chat, how many of you would be interested if we did a webinar in the next couple of months on improving your forecasting, on the keys to successful forecasting? Would that be something that you find interesting? We've got more accurate reporting and forecasting, increased efficiency and automation, and coming close behind that. How about that? We got a pretty good across the board, stronger alignment across teams and better visibility. That's what we're going to talk about today, everybody. We are going to talk about how do we drive more juice for the squeeze? How do we drive more impact from our efforts? And why should CRM be at the center of what you consider to be your competitive advantage? Now, I'll tell you, the best companies that I've seen work have strong CRM at the center of what they're doing. They're not successful because of the CRM. But the CRM is lockstep a part of what drives their competitive advantage. I've yet to see a company in the last 10 years drive sustained growth and sustained competitive advantage without having strong CRM. So I'm not saying CRM is the cause of that success, but it definitely correlates with the success. And while CRM will never be the reason that you beat your numbers and achieve your long-term objectives, increasingly it's going to be a reason that you fail to. One of the things that I've learned working with more than 500 companies directly involved in impacting the tech stack that they're using, the strategy that they're taking to market, the technology, the CRM, is that there's a chasm that exists between the strategy of an organization and its execution, between the intent of what a company is setting out to do and the results that it gets. And there's probably nowhere where this chasm is more present and more acute than when it comes to the use of technology. A few years ago, Gartner did, amongst the research that they regularly do, found that companies on average we're spending almost $5,000 more per rep on sales enablement technology. So $5,000 per year per rep on sales enablement technology, with CRM being the primary cost driver there. And the results of these investments A decrease of 12% in sales conversion rates. Now, I am not saying that sales conversion rates went down because companies were spending more money on technology. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is, while companies are spending more money on technology, and think about this yourself, how many different applications do you use today? How much money does your organization spend on those various applications? Compare that to what you were spending 2 years ago, 5 years ago. And if you can even remember what you were spending 10 years ago, think about how much more you're spending. And why are we spending more money on technology? We're spending more money on technology because we want to drive greater efficiency. We want to drive greater throughput. We want to drive greater effectiveness. Yet, despite that, if you take a look at the underlying performance numbers of the vast majorities of organizations, more on this in a minute, you're going to see we're not driving those results. Right? So while we're spending money to drive greater productivity, to drive greater efficiency, we're spending money to eliminate friction. What's happening all too often is we're creating a whole new set of friction that's continuing to, all of a sudden I can't speak. Not a good thing to have happen when you're delivering a webinar. Perpetuating the challenge, perpetuating the problems that led us to invest in the technology to begin with. And this is why whenever you're talking about technology, one of our key principles is don't buy technology, hire it. Right? Technology is a core element that has to follow the strategy of an organization. As I shared in my best-selling book, The Revenue Acceleration Framework, what you're going to find is that the best companies going to market, those companies that experience the greatest outcomes, right, generally with less effort than their competitive peers, start off with a strong go-to-market strategy. They're clear on their economic model. What's their sales approach going to be? What's the overall strategy, positioning, messaging? And that strategy drives the structure of their organization. Structure is all about what's the system design? How are all of our systems, both hardware, software, and people, how are they aligned together? What are the tools that we're using? The tech stack to enable it to happen, and how are we keeping score? That structure then drives their approach, their modus operandi, their way, if you will, right? Those are driven by what are the playbooks that you use? What are the processes and methodologies? We are all, everybody on this webinar, I'm sure, is familiar with the idea and the growth of revenue operations, whose domain is really all about that structure and approach to translate the strategy to execution and hence performance, but not just to drive the strategy to execution, to provide the feedback from execution back up to strategy to create a continuous reinforcing loop. Right? So strategy drives execution, execution informs strategy, which feeds back into execution, and we develop a flywheel effect. The companies that excel at this, the companies that implement this type of framework experience greater sales quota attainment, both on a team basis as well as an individual basis. And in a day and age where we talk about lengthening sales cycles in the same way we talk about gravity, it's just a law. Sales cycles are going to lengthen. Companies that excel at this process are seeing significant improvements and even decreases in sales cycle. Right? How can you be one of those companies that's driving greater throughput, greater sales, greater outcomes without doing more? Right? One of the things that you're going to find, and this is an excerpt from one of the best books I've ever read on operations, Team of Teams, is in a world where we're trying to create, we're trying to move the decision making and the execution points as close to the end point as possible. So in a business situation, as close to the customer as possible. So we want our salespeople making decisions. We want our customer service reps making decisions. We want those people that are at the point of execution to make decisions so that they can respond flexibly, quickly, resiliently, right? To be able to do that, right? To have that flexibility at the endpoint, to decentralize decision making and execution. What we need are strong centralized systems that bring us all together. And that's where the CRM is crucial, right? The CRM is central to translating your strategy to execution and that execution back into strategy. It is the centralized system that enables you to decentralize the decision making around strategy and execution. Companies that implement strong CRM see three superpowers. The first thing they see is greater control. They create greater focus to drive a more proactive approach. They are taking more proactive actions than their competitors are. And that ensures that their sales team is spending more time selling. Their service team is spending more time working on those customer issues that require people, right? They're able to spend more time on higher value activities, and they're able to automate low value activities. Strong CRM enables a robust end-to-end experience, both internally and externally, increasing productivity and throughput. So you generate more revenue per person, more revenue per headcount, higher gross profit, higher gross margins. And the third superpower is it closes the loop, enabling stronger insights into why the organization wins, why they lose, and how they can improve performance. Right? If your CRM is driving these three experiences, then you're in a good place, right? Here's the central question that I have, and we put together a model that we call the CRM maturity model. It says, where are you in the utilization of your CRM to driving business outputs? And what you're going to find is that the best companies, their CRM, the utilization of their CRM enables them to look forward. It puts them at a level 4 or level 5 of the maturity curve with data-driven performance and customer management. So they're making data-driven decisions because the system is providing leading indicators. They're increasing the predictability of their business. Those who fully maximize the use of their CRM, it's actually a core part of the strategic customer experience. It moves beyond being a customer management platform to a customer experience platform. Now, on the other end of the maturity curve, we've got disconnected and siloed data, moving into basic contact management. And where we find most companies today that have invested in their CRM is they're able to manage their pipeline, but it's a lagging indicator. It's not building predictability into their business. So let's take a moment here on the poll that's up there and answer, where do you find yourself on the maturity model? What level do you feel like you're at in the CRM maturity model? Sammy, if people are still voting, give them some time to vote. Otherwise, let's take a look at what the results are. Oh, so I would say this group is outperforming. So 3 are at that cross-functional. So they've got connected data, but it's not leading right now. They're not at that point of data-driven performance and customer management. I think you're going to find that the latter parts of the webinar that we talked today are going to be particularly appropriate. With about a third of the audience, at least a third of the voting audience, still in those lower stages, right? How many of you find when it comes to CRM, you find yourself thinking, you know what? I've got a relatively simple business. It's not that hard. It's not that complicated. All I need is, I just need to know, what are we doing? Right. Here's why CRM fails. I call this the catch-22 of CRM. The reason that drives businesses to invest in CRM is candidly a pretty simple, straightforward purpose. And that is they want to know what's going on. Who have we talked to? Who haven't we talked to? When did we talk to them last? The CRM has been positioned as a logging tool because that's what we need. We need information logged. And lots of companies are coming out now, and what they're promising, like in the age of AI, what we're promising is this whole world of unstructured data. Right. And for those of you that want to know more of what I'm talking about, you can check out a webinar we did 4 months ago on AI readiness. But one of the benefits of AI and one of the big talking points about CRM today is making sense of unstructured data. So as emails come in, the system will read the emails and determine what's important. And you know, that's all well and good. The problem is logging data and using the CRM are two very different things. Where you're going to get the benefit, where you're going to get to a level 4 and level 5 is when CRM becomes a core part of the business process that your team is following, right? So I don't, you know, the CRM doesn't become one more step of what I'm doing, right? And I'm all for those places where CRM becomes one more step of what I'm doing. If we can find ways to automate getting the data into the system, so much the better. Right. But if we're not using the CRM, if we're not utilizing the CRM, we're not going to get the performance advantage. And the data that's in the system is going to be data that we can't fully rely on. Right. So if all we do is build the system for what the business needs, it's not going to drive the juice for the squeeze so that your users use the system the way they need to. The focus needs to move beyond adoption to utilization. Do you have a defined statement? How does the CRM user do their job more efficiently and effectively? Because do you have user stories that support how your users are able to do their job more efficiently and effectively by using the CRM? Because, by the way, if the data is in the CRM, but I'm not using it, it doesn't really matter. And are you able to assess how the CRM is being used relative to how you expect it to be used, which is driven by what's the underlying business process? You see, what you're going to find is in those lower levels of CRM maturity, it's an adoption mindset that's being taken to bear. If you want to get to the higher levels of the CRM maturity model, you've got to think in terms of utilization. Are we building the system to be used? Do our sales reps, our success managers, and our broader user base, are they able to do their job faster, easier, and more effectively because they use the CRM? Or does the CRM represent one more thing that they have to do, one more thing that they're supposed to do? Now, I don't know anybody that has set out with the objective of, hey, let's implement our CRM so that no one uses it. Yet, the vast majority of CRM implementations fail to deliver on their business objectives. Why is that? Well, the reason is we build Frankenstein systems, right? One of the reasons that we build these complicated, difficult systems, and again, this gets back into the catch-22. If the only focus you have is keep it simple, right? This idea, this false choice that when it comes to implementing a CRM, it's going to be simple or complicated, right? When the goal becomes only simple, you end up building a complicated system because it becomes complicated to use. Why is that? Well, there's a difference between theory, right? We lay out our sidewalks, if you will, of how things are supposed to work. But the moment someone starts to use it and something deviates, the system isn't sufficient enough, the system isn't resilient enough to support the use, we stop using it or we use it inconsistently. The question isn't simple or complicated. The formula is simple and complete. It's simple to use because it's complete. What does complete mean? It means I can support an entire motion, right? I can do all that I need to do within one tool, right? Every time you make me leave a tool, you decrease the likelihood of me using the tool, of me utilizing the tool the way it's supposed to be used by about half. Right. So if I need to go to my email to do this and a spreadsheet to do that and my CRM to log this and another application to make a phone call and another application to log something, right? It's just not going to happen. When you build the CRM to support the motion fully, that's what makes it easy to use. That's what makes it simple to use. If you remember nothing else from my conversation today, if nothing else hits the mark, please remember this: build for use, not for logging. What are we doing in the tool to make it so that our key users benefit from using the CRM? And too often the benefit is, well, we'll know what's going on, right? Too often the benefit, and this is, partially because this is where CRM kind of initiated. It initiated as an initiative from finance and VPs of sales, right? So legacy CRM implementation is really built simply for the basis of compliance and logging data. We've got to go beyond that to enable it to support what our teams are doing so they can do it better, right? When CRM is not performing to the level that we're talking about here, when you're not at that level 4, level 5, what you find are poor execution, lower velocity, lost sales time, your content loses its effectiveness, it's not being leveraged and used properly, and that relates into higher costs, ineffective allocation of resources, and probably the worst thing of all, it slows down our decision making. The number of times that we run a report to then check a report, to then go into an Excel file to work on our forecasting, right? That's driven by poor strategy and failure to translate that strategy into CRM and into your CRM implementation. Right? Significant impacts when you see revenue operations with CRM at the center not performing the way it needs it. So I'm going to share with you a story of a company that we worked with. This would have been about 3 years ago. That really demonstrates the difference between adoption and utilization. And this was a company that had very good CRM adoption. This was a $250 million software company, not a SaaS company. But they sold software to the industrial industry. So they had a lot of elements that were very similar between a tech company and an industrial company. They were private equity owned. Growth over the previous 3 years had been driven primarily by acquisition. And what I mean by that is by the acquiring of companies, not by the acquiring of customers. So their growth rate was still strong, but their organic growth rate had been decreasing. They were profitable. And the primary problem they had, the primary purpose of what they brought us in for, was they wanted to reignite organic growth because they were basically done with the purchasing side of it. And they had about 3 to 4 years to get that organic growth engine fired up, because that would represent the time that the private equity company would be looking to their next exit. A review of their situation found very strong adoption from the CRM. And what you're going to see is the numbers in the CRM looked like they were good, right? The performance numbers looked strong, right? When we first got involved and we first looked at the numbers, we were a little bit perplexed. Why are we not getting more growth with this type of performance? So as we dug deeper, right, what the CRM wasn't showing, right? And again, this is about digging deeper into really understanding what is the strategy, what's driving your outcomes, and so forth, was while their win rate was being reported at a 40 to 45% rate, when you took a look at the revenue win rate, when you weighted deals by revenue and you didn't treat each deal just as an individual deal, the win rate was only 17%. Right. So they were beating their target number. By the way, they had a major forecasting problem. They were beating their target number of closes. All right. And their win rate was higher than what was expected, but they were still missing their numbers. Right. Why? Because they didn't really align the numbers to what drove their economic engine. The second thing that we noticed was that the sales cycle was artificially short. This took some explaining, because when we shared that, you know, the average closed one deal was closed in less than 60 days. I think it was 58.4 days. Right. To which the CEO and CRO, their first response is, well, what's wrong with that? Right. Well, there's two problems with that. Number one, if you're looking to build predictability in your business and your average business closes in less than 60 days, it means you can't really forecast even a quarter out, because a third of your business hasn't even shown itself, hasn't even sprung up in your CRM at the beginning of each quarter. Right. Further, when we looked at it, what we found was open deals were aged on average 1.5 times what closed one deal was, and lost deals were 2.5 times longer. Right. So if we're talking about 60 days, the average deal had been open, it was actually about 95 days. And the average closed lost deal was about 130 days. Sorry, 150 days. Right. What does that tell us? Well, it tells us one thing, that a lot of the deals in their pipeline and their pipeline coverage looked good. But what it told us is a lot of those deals, they weren't really live. Right. Because remember, their typical deals closing in less than 60 days. Right. So one thing is they weren't getting truth. The second thing, and what we found, deals weren't being entered until very late in the sales cycle. So all of the things that led up to deals being identified was being totally missed, which meant marketing wasn't getting data about what was driving interest, what was driving activation, right? We weren't able to do a real analysis of where were we losing business in the process, so that we could coach salespeople for better performance. We could address product issues, messaging issues, and so forth. What we discovered was a lack of business process clarity, poorly defined stages, which is one of the reasons that deals were getting created late, and deals were created very late. Their metrics showed that they had generated 500 MQLs, but only 75 sales opportunities, which led to 50 proposals. Upon a redefinition of, defining what clarity was, so really bringing a more operational, tighter definition to what is a marketing qualified lead, the first thing we found was only 375 of those 500 marketing qualified leads actually met the definition of an MQL. So one observation was they weren't generating the number of MQLs that they thought they were generating. The second thing we found was they had actually generated 135 sales opportunities, right? 60 sales opportunities were not logged, right? They were We were able to do that by interviewing. We were able to identify that by interviewing sales reps, really digging into the underlying data to find, hey, these were conversations that should have led to the creation of a deal, right? So think about that, almost twice the number of sales opportunities. Think about the data and the insights that you could gain if you knew you were losing that business. And by the way, the proposal count wasn't 50 proposals. Only 45 of the deals met the criteria for what should have gotten a proposal. Okay, you might be listening to this now going, okay, Doug, this sounds interesting. But let's, like, where does it really matter? The real cost that they were experiencing, they were losing $5 to $15 million in EBITDA. By the way, we were able, through process redesign, putting the CRM in a central place, we were able to, they're now $5 million up, right? They've recovered a core part of that lost EBITDA, that data that they were lacking to be able to work on performance improvement, which in their industry is worth $100 to $200 million in enterprise value, right? Because they lack the system to be able to drive centralized insights to decentralized decision-making actions and activity, they were experiencing significant negative impacts on their business. And this is why CRM is a business performance issue. CRM needs to be owned by the business unit. That doesn't mean that the IT department shouldn't be involved. Please do not misunderstand me. CRM is an IT investment. There's no question about that, right? But it's a business performance issue. It's a business performance tool. And this is also why you have to live by the law, by what we call the prime directive at Lyft. And that is that the business process must drive the technology. The technology should never dictate the business process. So let's talk about how do we overcome the barriers to CRM becoming a performance driver. I'm going to highlight 5 key actions to take. The number one action, the first action, is to decide what type of CRM platform are you building? Are you building a horizontal platform or a vertical platform? A horizontal platform is a platform filled with a number of different tools and other tools underneath them. So you're coming in with a number of point solutions. You're typically going to be managing 5 to 7 databases, sometimes more than that, right? This can be an effective platform for very large organizations that have the manpower and the resources to basically build their own product by bringing other point products together. For small to mid-market companies, basically, up to about 5 to 10,000 employees, up to about 1,000 salespeople, what you're going to find is building a vertical platform is the way to go. What's a vertical platform? It is a single centralized database. So a CRM that drives all marketing motions, sales motions, customer management motions, where a vertical platform is exemplified by the management of multiple databases. A CRM platform feeds into a single database. It is driven by a single database. Applications don't broaden the impact of what you're doing. They deepen the impact of what you're doing. Build a vertical platform that will enable you to streamline the management of the tool, the management of the system. It will drive faster actions, faster iterations, and better outcomes. What's the second thing you need to do? Now, this is probably the most quoted action item that I share on webinars. Even to the point that one person said to me as I was preparing the deck, Doug, are we going to talk about that again? And I said, yeah, we're going to talk about that again. Because candidly, if you don't do this next thing, forget getting beyond level 2 of the CRM maturity model. And that is map your business process. You need to map your business processes. We talk, and I get excited Yes, I really nerd out on these things when I say I get excited when I see and read with greater frequency about the importance of documentation of your build outs. Right? But what we're not talking about is documenting our business process, documenting our business processes. Why are we investing in technology? We're investing in technology because we want to eliminate friction. But if we don't know where we're going, it doesn't matter how fast it is to get there, right? You're not going to end up going anywhere, right? You want to build a remarkable end-to-end experience. So define, what does your customer experience look and feel like? How does your front stage, what is front stage? Front stage is everything that gets done in front of a customer, anything that a customer sees, feels, touches, smells is a front stage discipline. How does your front stage support the customer experience that you're looking to create? How does your backstage? Backstage are all the things that support what's happening on your front stage. Right? CRM is a core backstage system. Right? A CRM should enable a salesperson to perform better. Right? Their win rates should go up because of the utilization of a CRM. They should be able to manage more opportunities because of a CRM. Right? Doing more with less effort. Right? That's how backstage enables the front stage. And what are the support processes that enable our backstage so that our front stage can optimize and perform at the level we want it to perform? Right? We need to provide the narrative of what this looks like. And then, yes, get down to the nitty gritty from opportunity, from interest to customer to expansion. What are we doing and how are we doing it? If we don't map out what we're doing and how we're doing it, then there's no way that systems are going to be able to enable us to do it better, faster, or less expensively. Map your processes. CRM is a critical business process management tool. That means the business processes need to be there so that they can be managed, so that they can be optimized. I talked earlier about the catch-22. Are we building the log information or are we building for use? You can theoretically mandate adoption. And by the way, if you go to the company that I shared as the example earlier, that was a company that had basically mandated adoption. But it was very clear there. You had to log what you were doing in the CRM, right? I can enforce compliance. But the only way to get utilization is when using the CRM, when doing the job is easier using the system. When doing the job is easier using the CRM than it is not using it. It gets to the star of our webinar today. Build it for use. Build it for use. Using the CRM must be worth it, or people aren't going to use the CRM. I'll tell you, I've interviewed, we've broken down, we've done the field research on sales, customer success teams, account management teams. They are stuck in reactive vortexes. And on a day-to-day, week-to-week basis, their lives are best exemplified by do more, or maybe better stated, do more with less, right? What we need to do, the reason that we need to map our processes and build the system for use is so that we can deliver on the ultimate user mantra, and that is, don't make me think. See, that's what simple is. Simple is, I don't have to think. I go in and I can use the system. The system flows with how our business flows. The system flows with how our business process flows. Build your CRM to be a command center. What's the single page that enables the user to know everything that they need to know? And by the way, you've got different users, so you need different command center type pages. For your sales team, how can they quickly and easily identify target accounts? One of the hot methodologies for the last decade has been account-based marketing. Yet when I go in and I ask somebody, show me your target accounts, the time that it takes for them to show me demonstrates that the whole strategy is broken down because we haven't even started by understanding who are our target accounts. Build that target account strategy into your CRM. And in the same tool that they're managing everything else, they can also manage the actions and activities that they're taking. No thinking required. Enroll my contacts and execute. Turn latent data, emails, conversations into visible data with minimal clicks. Build context into the system. Right. The information that we need from customers and prospects is so situational and so contextual, yet we tend to go in and we provide generic screens to our customers. Identify, here's an action item that I would like everyone on this webinar to take, and that is interview your sales team, your customer success team, and come up with what are the 50 most common asked questions. You know what? 50 is too many. I'm asking for too much. I mean, I'm not really asking for too much, but I'm going to say I'm asking for too much. 50 is a lot. What are the 10 most common questions that you get? What are the answers to those questions? Turn those answers into snippets and templates so that I don't have to think about the answer anymore and I don't have to spend the time typing it out. Make responding easier. By the way, you'll see the time, you'll see the lead response time or the customer inquiry response time get cut to a fraction. Make logging the information automatic. Notify, track, transcribe. Again, make it easier for our people to do their jobs. They'll start using the system. Build your tools into your CRM. A little lift brag here. This is one of the applications that we just recently launched. Build battle cards into the CRM. Again, if I have to go and look at a PDF document, well, the first thing that's going to happen is I'm not going to look at the PDF document. But if I have to look at it, if I have to leave the CRM to get competitive information, well, I'm less likely to access the CRM and I'm less likely to access the PDF to get that competitive information. And so by building all of this information and these tools into the CRM, taking one action enables me to take several actions. And adoption increases, utilization increases. I'm already in the CRM, so adding the information and keeping things up to date becomes much simpler, much more natural. And the reason that you need your teams using the CRM is so that the data that's in the CRM can be relied on for insights and action. Right? The culmination of a strong CRM implementation are the reporting and the analytics that come from it. Strong forecasting is the result of good process. It is not the cause of good process. One of the most common challenges that I see that dramatically reduces the impact of the CRM investment that a company is making comes to how organizations are using it for reporting and analytics. Who can identify what's wrong here? It's the 5 common mistakes plus one. The 6 common mistakes we see made with reporting. The most common, the killer, is there are too many reports. We see too many reports in a system. We recently audited a system. This was a 75-person sales organization. There were 5 sales managers, VP of sales, and there were more than 1,000 different reports. A typical dashboard had, I think the average dashboard had 27 reports on it. Right? Too many reports. If you try to measure everything, you're not measuring anything. Right? Take the +1, -2 approach going forward. For every report that you add to your system, what 2 reports are you taking away? Right? Second mistake we see made. This is the second most common. Right? Too many reports, but then on a report, trying to put way too much information on a report. Now, look, one of the reasons we do that is for convenience. Right? Hey, if I can put everything in one place, I'm not looking in different things. But the challenge is it's like always multitasking, right? It doesn't do anything particularly well because it's trying to provide you everything. What should you make reports for? Here's the question. What's the action or the intervention that you're looking to drive? If all a report does is tell you you're on track or you're off track, who cares? Right? If I'm off track, but I'm not getting any information that gives me a better question to ask and action to take, I just as soon not know. Right? So what's the action or intervention that's driving what you're trying to report on? That drives whether or not you should have a report for what you're doing. Right? What's the job to be done? What job is this report doing? What user story is it supporting? Next thing we see is reports that are just overly standardized. Look, I think it's great that CRM comes out and they've got some built-in reports, et cetera. If more than about 20% of the reports that you're using are the pre-built reports, they're not built for you. The reality is you're managing somebody else's business. You're not managing your business. So again, really think about what is your business process? What is your strategy? What is the insights that you need to drive better decision-making? And then the last mistake that we see that leads to too many reports and too much information is a focus on convenience of reporting rather than focusing on insights and actionability. Here are some questions. Here are 3 questions to answer for building effective dashboards. What's the problem or the opportunity that you want to highlight? What's the problem that we're looking for here? What's the opportunity? What does normal look like and what does out of norm look like? Right? If you don't know what normal is, then you don't know whether the information that you're being provided, is that something that you should do something about? See, the reason this is important is if I put data in front of you, our brains are programmed to want to do something in response to that data. Right? And what the research shows is that 9 times out of 10, if we don't have a structure and framework in place, 9 times out of 10, what impulsively we're drawn to do is the wrong thing. What's the action you're seeking insights for? Holy cow, I can't count. Clearly, I was working on this and found that I wanted to add something because I say 3 questions in here, I have 4 bullets. See, you can't say you didn't get what you paid for. The 4th question, what role is this dashboard being built for? Right? One of the things that leads to too many reports on a dashboard is we have one dashboard built for 3 or 4 different roles. You see, when we think about creating effective dashboards, we have to understand there's really 2 uses, right? Don't mix them together, right? There's the pulse check, right? What are the key critical reports? By the way, if you get to more than about 7 to 10 reports on your pulse dashboard, really look to carve that down you're probably trying to pay attention to too many things. What are the key elements that tell you, are you on course or off course? Your drill down reports become relevant when you're establishing new hypotheses or when something is out of norm, right? So don't drill down in the same place you get your pulse check, right? We don't want our dashboards to look like an airplane cockpit from 20 years ago. You see, what a good report, what a good analytic does is it separates the signal from the noise, right? It makes it easier and simpler for us to understand our business, not harder and more complicated. All right, here's the fifth step, and that is the launch. Too often we look at the launch of our CRM as the finish line. The launch is the start line. Always be launching. If you have more than 50 sales reps, you should be launching at least 3 times per year, probably 4 times per year. If you have 10 to 50 sales reps, you should be launching 2 to 3 times per year. If you have fewer than 10 reps, you can get away with 2 launches per year, right? What you're looking to do is to be focused on what's the company you need to become, what's the performance that you need to deliver, and how are you staging your systems to enable that performance going forward. Always be launching your CRM. You'll find that it's counterintuitive because you'll find that you'll have a more stable environment. You'll drive better performance, better process improvement. You'll see your CRM serve that central role and drive that end-to-end experience. Before I open it up to questions, I want to share with you 2 resources that are available to you. If you'd like a copy of the Strategic CRM Scorecard, and you can score your CRM, score how well you're utilizing your CRM. For those of you that rate it yourselves 4, I highly recommend you reach out to me and you ask about the Strategic CRM Scorecard. Score yourself, see if you're really there. Just send us an email and we will send you a copy of the CRM Scorecard. Or if you'd like to dig in a little bit deeper, we do have a program that we call the Revenue Acceleration Readiness Assessment. Think of it as your comprehensive checkup for your go-to-market strategy. We dig deeply into what is your go-to-market approach, what's working, what's not working, how do you fill in the gap to drive the type of outcomes that you're looking for. This assessment is ideal for companies with more than 10 salespeople. Let me stop there. That is what I wanted to share. A nice rapid webinar. I hope you enjoyed it. Let us know how you feel, but also in chat, we've got some time for questions. So as a mentor of mine like to say, who has the second question since no one likes to ask the first? What questions can I help with? What thoughts come to mind? If you don't have a question, I'd love to know, how'd you feel about the webinar? Did it hit the points that you were hoping to hit? Did you enjoy it? Let's get a little chat activity here. If you haven't answered the poll, we'd love you to answer the poll. And Sammy, what is the result of our poll? Well, there we go. Everybody, thank you so much. For deeper dives, send us an email. We'll send you some resources that we have on other elements around CRM. We're happy to talk to you. As you can tell, I nerd out about this. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend, and I hope we cross paths soon.